Good afternoon. Brian here from the Big Weather Guy channel, and we're gonna go through a little bit of a discussion of the somewhat unusual late season blizzard that is getting ready to impact the central plains up through the Great Lakes in the next 24 to 36 hours. Taking a look at the National Weather Service hazards map or warnings and watch map, you can see a beautiful swath of blizzard warnings set up from northeastern Colorado through north central Kansas, much of the eastern half of Nebraska, the northwestern part of Iowa, and up through southern Minnesota and Wisconsin up into the upper peninsula of Michigan. In the southern plains, you can see the pink here, which is outlined as red flag warnings, and then high wind warnings in brown, which have, been really affecting us. Again, today, really strong south winds gusting to 40 plus here in Oklahoma. And of course, the very dry conditions and strong winds uh, that led once again to another very active day of wildland fire in southern and central plains. Hopefully, that will not be going on too much longer, but we do have several more days and probably another couple weeks until green up really starts to happen and hopefully a little bit of precipitation to get things a little more humid and help that greening process right along. Looking at the weather map, this is valid for tomorrow. You can see the culprit here that's going to cause all the fun is that surface low pressure. It's going to develop quite rapidly and deepen quite rapidly uh, before it starts to pull out of the plains up in the upper Midwest. And that is going to cause all the trouble in terms of the heavy snow and the very strong winds that will accompany it through the plains up in the Midwest. A little bit of a chance of some strong storms, nothing overly severe. We'll discuss that near the end of the video. And that cold front then pushing down through the southern plains and cooling things off. But again, another very dry, windy day tomorrow with winds out of the northwest tomorrow for us instead of the south as they are today. Taking a look at our satellite picture from this afternoon, you can see the strong ridging here in the central part of the U.S. and the wind sweeping down across the southwest and then up and over the ridge here in the Midwest and the Ohio Valley and the plains. Here is the low pressure center system, upper level low pressure that is moving in, which will give birth to the surface low. All the fun. But all in all, a very pleasant day across most of the eastern half of the U.S., with the exception of the wind. Moving from the satellite to take a look a little bit at the temperatures, and they reflect what you would expect to see with strong ridging. Here, temperatures in the 80s, in 70s, near 80, or most of the eastern half of the country, with the Intermountain West and the influence of the trough, quite cold still. And then that cool air getting ready to be drawn down that will cause all of the problems from a snow standpoint. Taking a look at the 500 millibar pressure map, again, this is up at about 18 to 20,000 feet. You can see that strong trough digging into the west and the strong ridging that's impacting the eastern half of the U.S. And looking at the jet stream rounding the base of the trough, you can see very strong 100 plus knot jet maxes that are rounding the base, and it's going to be the catalyst that really starts things off, mm, deepening that surface low pressure, and then the surface weather uh, responding to that. Moving this forward and looking at some model data now, you can see, and you'll see through this progression of the next several slides, that this low pressure system is going to move quite rapidly across the U.S. It's a very progressive pattern, and you have these strong jet maxes here at the base. This is later on this evening. This is the forecast position of where things should lie, with that jet max starting to swing from the bottom of the trough into the plains, and that's when we'll start to see that surface low developing quite strongly. Looking tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Central, you'll see that jet max has already traversed much of Oklahoma, and you've got a closed low here at 500 millibars over in the eastern half of Kansas, and strong northerly component as that surface low responds to the upper level troughing and really cranks things up. By tomorrow evening, that that trough again now over the Mississippi Valley, so moving quite rapidly. That is the one saving grace of this system, is that it's not going to linger for a very long time in any one place, but it is quite strong. And we'll take a look at how strong when we look at some of the surface forecasts for how deep that low pressure will get quickly. And that, of course, will give rise to a tremendous amount of wind that will make the snow, though the snow amounts are not overly dramatic. When you have 50, 60 mile per hour gusts out in the northwest, any bit of snow is going to turn into a blizzard with that amount of wind. And then by Thursday morning, you can see that trough broadening out, and still a strong northerly component over the plains, but most of the energy having moved off to the east. At the surface, we look, this is at tonight, 0Z, so 7 o'clock, in about an hour from after this was recorded. The forecast is showing about a surface low here in central western Kansas, starting to deepen, sitting at 987 millibars. We'll have to see how that progresses, but deepening very rapidly. We'll take a look. I'll be taking a look at some of the pressure falls and see how it's responding to that trough moving in from the west. And you can see precip already starting to forecast to be starting to pick up across the high plains, Colorado, western Nebraska, and so on. Real action takes place overnight tonight, and this by 7 a.m. tomorrow. You see that low pressure having moved all the way across to close to the Kansas City area, a little north of Kansas City. Still not tremendously deeper, but you can see the pressure gradient, the the the, 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 the how close together the lines of pressure are. The isobars is what they're called. And the stronger, or the closer they are together, the stronger the winds are in response as air rushes in to try to fill the void left by that low pressure. So overnight tonight, it's going to be a very quick shot of very strong, heavy snow, but over a short amount of time. But the real story again is going to be that dramatic wind and how strong it is. And with the amount of energy being pushed by this system, you're actually looking at some good heavy rains, and some actually could be some thunder out ahead of this system in Iowa. And we'll take a look again, like I said, at that in just a little bit. By Wednesday evening, 7 p.m., the snow will have pretty much exited. You get a little bit still on the backside of the low pressure, and the winds will start to die down, thankfully, by tomorrow evening. But that about 18-hour window from, or 18 to 24-hour window, depending upon where you are, from now until tomorrow evening is going to be pretty dramatic, and look forward to seeing all of the photos and videos of what it might look like tonight. Going finally through some of the information from the various local National Weather Service offices. It's from Hastings, Nebraska. You can see they've put up quite a bit of red there in the form of blizzard warnings, uh, starting late tonight, late midnight thereafter. The snow, again, 2 to 6 inches, which is, when you hear it, it's not all that dramatic. But when you have northwest winds gusting up to 65 miles an hour, you're going to have horrible visibility, drifting, travel impacts, and just not anything anybody would want to deal with. And it's gonna drop temperatures very rapidly. And the expected snowfall accumulation for the south central Nebraska, again, about 2 to 6 inches, depending on where you are. A little more as you travel east and north, 4 to 8 in Lincoln, 6 to 11 up in Fremont. But there will be this will be largely contingent, dependent on where exactly low pressure travels, what path it takes, and how quickly it takes that path. So that's why the ranges are quite broad in terms of the amount of snow that is expected. If it slows down a little bit, you're going to see those snowfall totals up towards the upper bound of those ranges rather than the lower. Out of the Omaha office, largely the same story. They're calling for blizzard warnings from 1 a.m. tomorrow to 10 p.m. tomorrow, and northerly wind gusts 50 to 70, and a good amount of snow. Omaha is couching it a little bit more uh, carefully, uh, showing pretty pretty broad amounts of snowfall here, 6 to 11 at Tecumseh, 4 to 8 at Omaha. But they've put in these pink areas, which are of important note. It's going to be a very narrow band of the heaviest snow. Once you get north of that band, totals will drop off quite quickly. You can see it now where they're only calling for 0 to 2, 3 to 8 in Norfolk. Sorry, Norfolk. Yes, Nebraskans call it Norfolk. I've often wondered about that. Anyway, and so you're gonna have a very tight range, a very tight band of heavy snow moving up into northwestern Iowa. You can see Storm Lake calling for 6 to 12, and so that'll complicate travel, especially if you're moving east or west. Looking from the Des Moines office, again, largely the same story. 1 to 2 inches of hour per hour snowfall rates. So really heavy snow combined with that really strong wind. You're not going to take a long time at all to get into some pretty dire travel situations. And you can see their additional forecast, their snowfall forecast, showing that really tight band from Council Bluffs to Mason City, and from Sioux City up to Sterville, with a really tight range there from 8 to 12 inches through the western part of the state. And the snowfall forecast from the Twin Cities office shows it starting to taper off a little bit as it starts to lose a little bit of its energy and its ability to tap into the moisture. One thing to keep an eye out for, again, nothing really dramatic in terms of tornadoes or anything like that, but there's a chance to just some good rumbles of thunder on the leading edge of this system as it traverses up uh, through tonight. In the front edge, which is still on the warm side of the low pressure, you'll see a good amount of moisture and instability and it could lead to some thunder along with your rain. And then tomorrow, as it draws into the more of that warm sector, you have a little bit of a chance here through the Illinois region. Again, nothing dramatic. There's not a tremendous amount of moisture to deal with and or instability, but it's just something to keep in mind. When everybody else is getting a blizzard, the front end will be getting some thunderstorms. So that's it for tonight. I hope you all stay warm and safe. Don't try to travel if you're in the plains states and the Midwest. If you're going to be affected by this snowstorm. So just enjoy it and enjoy your snow day if you get one. Hopefully you do. And I'll catch up with you later. Be well.